Good afternoon. Welcome back to another edition of Talk of the Towns here at NYAOT. We have a great guest with us today. We have the president of our executive committee, Mike Marinaccio, and we're going to talk to Mike about his views on the association and what's ahead for the future of the association. But before we do that, as always, thank you. My name is Koetzle. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. Please, we always ask, if you like what you're listening to or watching, please make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Those three things are critically important. Share with your friends, Talk of the Towns, anything town-related. And always, if you have any ideas for a podcast or have any comments, please email us at nytowns.org. And so I think we have a special edition for you, so sit back and enjoy this one. We have the president of the association, Mike Marinaccio, is with us.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome. We're in beautiful Ithaca, New York. Not your town, not your community, but we're here at Highway School, and you're up here visiting and talking. I noticed talking to some of the highway superintendents. You tend to have a good relationship with your highway superintendent, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's not normal. Yes.
It's not.
What's the secret?
Communication.
Communication.
Just communicate, open communication, and try to be as transparent as you can. Our highway superintendent has a great working relationship, not only with the town board, but pretty much the whole town. Yeah. He's that kind of a person.
Yeah.
He's caring and he works hard. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
So I enjoy working with him. Yeah.
So you are the supervisor of the town of Dickinson in Broome County.
Yes.
How many years so far?
I hate to tell you. So I served one 2-year term, and I'm in my 6th 4-year term. Okay,
so that's 28
years.
28 years.
Plus 4 years as councilman.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you are up this year?
No.
No, not up this
Luckily,
year.
I'm not.
Okay, good.
Next year.
And probably be unopposed.
And I am running again.
You announce your candidacy right now.
Yeah, I'm going to run again. At least, let's see if I can get another 4 years and then call it quits.
That'd be great. That'd be great. The association needs you, so stay involved. So we've talked about you being the supervisor of Dickinson. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe what you like to do and hobbies, anything like that.
Well, I was going to say I love mowing lawns, but not this year. I don't have any real hobbies. I love working outdoors, and I've been living in the town of Dickinson now since 1987. Within 2 years after I moved there, I decided to run for office. Yeah. And I won. I was surprised because I didn't know anybody, but I ran for councilman, won, and then I had a 2-year hiatus after that, and then I ran for supervisor and won, and then I won, and then I won.
Wow. No looking back.
No looking back, but I mean, as long as we keep making progress, accomplishing things and changing things that need to be changed, it's not, it's a wonderful thing. I enjoy doing it.
One interesting fact, though, you come from Buffalo and you're a big Buffalo Bills fan. Go Bills. Go Bills.
Yeah, I especially when I'm doing a radio show and the host always says, "So you're a Bills fan?" I said, "I'm a diehard fan, and every year I die really hard."
Not this year. This is going to be our year.
Well, that's what we say every year, but I love the Bills.
Yeah.
I always did. Been going to Bills games since I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe 15.
Are you going to make a game this year before they close the stadium down?
Probably not. Yeah. No, not the way my schedule is.
Yeah. I'm going to try.
You're going to try to do it?
I have a long history myself going there. I grew up in Rochester and went to school at St. John Fisher College. And so, my wife and I, we'd go on a date there. That'd be a date I'd take her to from college. We'd go to a game, and I brought my son there. I brought my family there. The NYAOT staff had a great outing one night. I took them all, we all went there, and it's just a lot of memories in the stadium that I got to go back one more time, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of memories there. I mean, obviously the best time to go to the games is like beginning of the season.
That's right. So last year, I had a couple, I went to the night games. One was beautiful. One was the San Francisco game where it was a blizzard.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen had the trifecta, the rush, the pass, and then he actually threw a touchdown pass to himself.
It was a whole game.
Yeah, it was the whole game. It was amazing. Amazing game. That was the last game I saw there so far. But I will tell you, I'm young enough going back, I forget the year exactly. I think it was 89 or something like that. We beat I want to say it was the Jets. We beat the Jets to go to the playoffs for the first time in like history, or long history.
Long history.
And we lost to the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Bernie Kosar, Ronnie Hammond, I think it was Hammond, dropped the touchdown pass from Jim Kelly. It would have won the game. So that was the end of our playoff run.
I remember that game.
But I tell you what, I was in the stands. This was back in the day. We rushed the field. There was so much euphoria around that stadium. Everyone was on the playing field. And back in that day, people used to be able to have jackknives and things. They carried them with them. There was no, Western New York. That was, you get in with anything. They're cutting the logo out. They brought the goalpost down. They slashed up the net that catches the football. Those are the memories I have. So I got to go one more time before they knock it down. Don't cause any trouble.
Don't cause any trouble.
Today, try to rush a field.
It's a little different.
You're not getting too far. Not getting too far.
Oh, yeah.
So you started your presidency this May, last month. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about how long you've been with NYAOT on the executive committee and maybe some of what you've done there.
How long? Right after I was elected councilman back in 1990, I started going to the training school in New York. And from that time up until recently, I only missed two events. One was because of weather, and one might have been because my son was being born.
Oh, wow.
Something like that. Yeah. But I felt that I needed that extra training. Learning on the fly when you're elected, whatever position, whether a supervisor, councilman, town clerk, you name it, going to school really added to that and gave me a better, clear insight as to what I can expect, what I needed to know, what I can do, what I can't do. Especially now that I'm supervisor, I'm still learning. And once you feel that you know it all, forget it. Things change so quickly. Laws change. New York State, keeps throwing things at us, and you have to keep up with that. There's nothing better than going to those classes and learning what's going on, what the changes are, and what you're required to do.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have you been on the executive committee?
About 100 years, it seems. No, I believe I've been on the executive committee for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I was on the resolutions committee for 1 year.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you've been involved quite a while.
Yeah, and it's amazing how fast time flew by. And then I was privileged, honored to be asked to become one of the vice presidents. And so, as people might know or may not know, there's 5 vice presidents, and you hope that everybody gets elected or re-elected. So in 5 years I'll become president. But boy, this went really quick.
Yeah, time's going fast.
It went by really quick. I think I went from 5 to 4 to 3 rather quickly. But I'm enjoying it so far. You have great staff.
Great staff.
And, we worked with the previous executive director, and now you're the new executive director, and boy, are we making inroads. I can't keep up with you.
Well,
to be honest with you, I can't keep up. You're just so above board with us, and I think the entire executive committee and the resolutions committee, for the most part, appreciates your work. Wow. You're doing a lot of work.
I appreciate it. It's a labor of love. I love the association. As you know, I've been involved on the executive committee prior to this for 7 years.
7 years,
been involved. The value that the association brings its members. As a supervisor, former supervisor myself, you and I have similar stories. So we're both Western New York transplants. presidents into new towns.
Yeah.
We both ran within 2 years of getting into our town. We both won, much to our astonishment, and never looked back. I started on the town board as well, 2 years, and then I did supervisor 15 years. I got 4 4-year terms.
Oh, so I beat you.
For this, yes. We got a few more years on me, Mike.
Yeah, I got a few more years. Yeah.
You started earlier, but it's really it's a labor of love, and there's so much the association does for its members. And you talked a little bit about the education piece of it. What, in your experience, do you find that the association? What's the value of the association to the members?
Oh my gosh, it's invaluable, really. And those who may not be members really should join up because it's extremely valuable. It's another tool that you have that you can use when you're problem solving, trying to get information. We have a great town attorney.
Yeah.
Great staff, but yet there are times when I have to make a phone call to the office. And we have at least 3 attorneys that I work really closely with. And each one of them just has so much information. And they're usually right. I mean, I would say 99% correct, and you give us the proper guidance on certain things. So there's a lot there that the association has to offer. And really, for the dues that we pay, it is so worth it. Yeah. It is so worth it.
Absolutely. You mentioned some of the staff, the 3. They actually have 3.5 attorneys now. We have a half attorney, right. Dana. She's phenomenal. But the staff is astonishing. The legislative group, the communications people, the member services. Oh, it's just so much going on. And I was very lucky to inherit such a great staff that has just kind of responded to the new vision.
Yeah.
And have been doing wonders. Talk about new vision. You coming into the presidency. What is your vision for this year? What do you like to see get done?
Well, I think you're on the right path. I'm kind of following you, actually. You don't need a whole lot of guidance, but I'd like to see some things definitely maintain what we have right now, which you're doing. Bringing in some new projects, I think, is important, which you're doing. Workforce development, to me, is probably one of the single biggest things that we can do. I think we have a good start. Every town that I'm aware of, whether you're in Western New York or the Syracuse area, Long Island, no matter where you go, everybody has the same thing, trying to find help. Yeah. It's very, very difficult. There's a lot of competition out there. Wages is usually an issue, and civil service is usually an issue, as a matter of fact, in most cases. So I think we're on the right path in some of the new things that you're presenting. Just doing this and getting the word out to me is extremely important.
Yeah, this podcast is very important, so make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Share, and subscribe, and spread the word on Talk of the Towns. You mentioned workforce development, huge issue for towns.
Huge.
I'm old enough, I'm an old guy, I'm old enough to remember the days where people used to, clamor to be in a town, right? You had to almost know someone to get in a town. Today, a lot of younger folks coming out of school now really aren't even aware what towns are or what opportunities exist for the town. So the association is doing a lot to try to raise the profile for our town.
Absolutely.
But you brought up 2 good really issues. One is the pay gap between private sector. So one of the things that COVID did was increase the pay gap between private and public sector.
That's correct.
And that's very hard to make up. That's not easy for a town to make up. But you also had mentioned that not only the pay gap, but civil service. So civil service makes it very clunky, right? And so we're working on trying a way to streamline civil service. I say this all the time. Civil service is a 100-year-old system that was meant to fix a 100-year-old problem. It's over.
It's over.
We need to move on now. It doesn't work in today's society.
It just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, you probably have seen it where someone applies for a job and you have to go through the civil service rigmarole, but the private sector is hiring them in a day. It takes towns 3 months to get through the civil service issue.
My experience with civil service was mostly when I worked for the county. Yeah. And I was the general manager of the arena there. And oh my gosh, the things that we had to go through to fill, certain positions. Plus you're working with unions, which I had no problem working with the unions. But civil service and the way it's programmed just doesn't work anymore. Wow. in my town, I don't have to deal with civil service.
Oh.
So that's a big plus.
How do you get around that?
It's a long story.
Oh, all right. That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. But no, none of my folks are civil service protected.
Okay.
They didn't come from civil service. We're a small town.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason why. But none of our positions are through civil service. The other thing, and I'd like to really emphasize this, is that when you talk to towns, especially other town supervisors, which I do a lot, they're all, I say they are, I'm not anymore, very reluctant to bring people's salary more up to what the going rates are. Well, we can't afford it, or we have to raise taxes, or the tax cap. We're going to go over the tax cap. And I said this at one of our meetings that we had, and I said, you know what, the heck with the tax cap. Look at all your positions, give the appropriate raises. You may have to bite the bullet for the first year or two.
Right.
But we did, and we started giving out bigger increases than we normally would give out, like 10%.
Yeah.
10% a year. And we're probably still under what maybe we should be paying. I know that our court clerks, really hard job to fill.
It is.
Very difficult job to fill. But we increased their salaries by probably 30-40%. And now we're not having a problem getting people in there. And there's a lot of protection. Once you come and work for a town, most likely you're not going to get laid off unless you do something wrong.
Right. Tier 6 is another, I think, deterrent. I think it's.
I was just going to mention that.
We lost our competitiveness there, so that's something we have to look at.
That's another thing. And I know there's been rumors of going another level, and that's not a good thing.
No. We've been trying to fix the 6, they call it.
Fix the 6,
we're trying to get it back so that we still have to protect towns and make sure that they're able to afford these benefits, because they're expensive. But, Tier 4 benefits was something that really made people want to look at public service.
Absolutely.
Tier 6, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
No, I was Tier 4.
So you brought up a dirty word. We didn't edit it. Dirty phrase, I should say, too. Tax cap.
Tax cap.
It isn't what people think it is. It isn't having the effect people think it's having. It's a deterrent. It's bad for towns. It's something we're working on, but your philosophy may have changed a little bit. Maybe I heard is that at a time no one wanted to break the tax cap, but now people are becoming more open to it.
That's what, and I'm hearing that too from other towns that finally, they're not going to go. The tax cap is a deterrent, and there are things that your town needs to get done, and you're not doing them because you don't want to go over the tax cap. Forget water or sewer projects, because that's a whole different entity. It has nothing to do with your property taxes, per se. But we decided that we didn't go over the tax cap either, even though we were giving out bigger raises. Even some of our elected officials, I felt that they were underpaid. Yeah. And if you want to attract really good qualified people to run for office, that's what you need to do. Yeah. And that's another thing. People don't want to run for office.
No, that's workforce development. That's kind of a piece of it. But why do you think that is?
In today's day and age, there's a lot of nastiness out there. I think that's part of the problem. Pay scales at the local levels is definitely why run for supervisor making $30,000 or $40,000 a year.
First of all, I'm on the record right now to say, as a full-time supervisor, you cannot do that job part-time. What's happening is people are doing it full-time at a part-time pay.
Thank you.
And so it's not about is it full-time or part-time. It is full-time. There's no question about that. It's just how much you want to pay somebody to do a full-time job.
You are so right. Obviously the pay scales differ from one region of the state to another. You go to Long Island, they're making $150,000, $180,000 a year. You go on the Buffalo, Erie County, and all those towns, and they're making $75,000, $80,000 a year. In my area, we have one town supervisor. She's in the $70,000 range. All the rest of us are making between $20,000 and $30,000 a year.
The supervisor in particular is a professional job. It's got the responsibility. You can talk about all the responsibility. You're the budget officer, chief fiscal officer, chief officer for the operations of the town. The board does the policy, but the supervisor relates to the operations. Today's day and age, with managing labor forces, with managing against the tax cap, with all these things going on, it requires a lot. And I think a lot of folks look at it and say, A, it's too much for me to learn because they're not really familiar with how towns run. But B, why am I going to do that for $20,000, $30,000 and get the calls every day, on all the issues?
Every day, 7 days a week, sometimes 24/7.
Everything that happens in the town, you get called on.
Yeah. Well, that's why you need to go to our training school in New York.
That's right.
In February, because a lot of these things are addressed.
Yeah.
A lot of these problems are addressed, and not necessarily solved, but at least it gives you an idea of what directions you can take and what actions you can take to overcome them. Even I'll tell you one thing that's really good, and I'm not sure if you talked about this, but opening up the relationship with the governor's been a big deal.
Yes, yeah.
It's been a big deal, and we haven't done that in years, probably since Pataki.
Yes.
And you come in, and now we have at least an understanding relationship with the governor. And that's a big deal. Yeah.
It kind of relates back to what you're talking about, why people don't want to run anymore. The air of civility seems to be gone.
It's gone.
And, my philosophy has always been, look, we may not agree. And the directive to the staff, the legislative staff on this was, look, we will support the governor where we can. We'll oppose where we must, but we'll always do it respectfully and ensure that we do it professionally. And that's the staff's mantra on that. Yeah. And that's true with every legislator. It's true with every issue that comes up. We don't give up our core values because we are trying to build a relationship, but we build a relationship by maintaining our core values and working with those people. And I must say, her office has been open to the relationship.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been good, and we're gonna hopefully get her back for the conference in February.
Yeah, get her to the dinner.
Yeah, get her to the dinner this time. But it's been great, and that's been important. On civility, I think there's something we have to look at there, because I think since Facebook in particular, things have gotten so ugly. I remember, and you're going to hear me reference this a lot. Yes, Twitter, X now. Now it's X.
That's X. Yeah.
But all the social media platforms. I'm old enough, and you hear me say this a lot, that I remember when I first ran, local politics was separate and distinct from national and state politics.
Very much so.
It didn't matter what you were, Republican or Democrat. It didn't matter. If they liked you, they liked you.
Right.
And if they didn't like you, they didn't like you. And if you're doing a good, I've noticed in my time in elected office, in that 15 years as supervisor, that has just gone down. I mean, it's out the window.
It's out the window, and it's a shame. And don't you wish that at the federal level that people got along like most of us do, at the local level. Yeah, I mean, if we did things like they do, we'd be out of office.
The communities would be crippled.
Now, somebody asked me, well, why do you say that? And I just had this conversation, and I say it because, well, why would you be out of office? I said, because at the local level, we are very close to our voters, our residents, the people that we represent. Yeah. So everything you say and everything that you do, and everywhere that you go, people are watching you. People know who you are. So, you need to be a good guy all the time. Yeah. Or at the federal level, you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It's the closest to, I say it's the most important because it's closest to the people.
Closest to the people.
It provides the day-to-day critical services every day. Yeah. Some towns are doing the roads and the water, and, some provide police, critical services every day. And you're right. You are intimately connected to the resident, the voter.
Very much so.
You go into Wegmans, how many questions do you get at Wegmans?
I go in for, my wife, I drive her crazy. I go in for like 3 or 4 items. I'm gone for an hour and a half. But that's what happens. And I enjoy that most of the time. There are times when people want to start asking questions like, can we wait? Can we maybe call
the office.
Call the office. But for the most part, people are pretty respectful. Yeah. And I think we're getting the word out at the local level why things cost and why, so much today. People understand, like water bills, sewer bills. Those are the two biggest complaints that I get, but people are beginning to understand why.
Yeah.
You know, everything has gone up.
Right.
Everything. Materials have gone up. Transportation has gone up. And I don't have my own water and sewer.
Right.
You know, so we have to, you know, we're outside users.
Yep.
So we pay whatever they decide to charge us.
Which is unfortunate.
Well,
Yeah. But you don't have to worry about the headaches.
I don't have to worry about the
Yeah.
headaches.
Yeah.
I'd rather keep it the way it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we've talked a bit. You're very intriguing. You know, you pull us into conversation. So is there anything that we didn't cover that you're interested in talking about?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, we mentioned, you know, the workforce development. I'm very interested in that only because I see how it affects all of the towns and villages and the county.
Yeah.
Actually, the state as well.
Yeah.
In filling positions. But right now, we're worried about, you know, our local governments. You know, maybe develop some new programs. I know that court clerk. I know we do some things.
Yes.
I think we need to do more.
Yeah.
For court clerks. Judges, I think we have some good programs for judges, especially new ones coming in. Lay persons that have no idea what it is to be a judge, but when they come out, you know, they do okay. I'd like to see that happen, you know, in the 1 year that I'm the president.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure we get as much as that. One of the challenges of the association, as you know, is we work for all the positions, and so it's hard to provide programming for all positions and hit them right. But you know, association does a wonderful job at that.
Absolutely,
and so
do.
We're excited about that, and we have some new staff working on that as well. The new
And
education
boy, they are
program.
fantastic,
aren't they?
Yeah, great hires.
Yeah. So the future is bright for the association, bright for the members of the association.
Put on your sunglasses.
That's right, Mike. I want to thank you for coming up to Ithaca from Dickinson.
It was a nice drive.
Meeting with us, and you're always a gentleman, and looking forward to working with you this year.
Well, thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for the job you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We'll have another great edition next week on Talk of the Towns. In the meantime, 3 things: like, share, and subscribe.